live. Let me move
Live as it is.
live as is. We move this over like that. Nope, that probably, I hope that didn't mess it up.
Still working, man.
Only like the freaking year long of us doing this. Why would it be? Oh, there it goes. Looks like it worked.
It's working for sure. Based on results, every time that this little red thing turns on over here that says live.
Let me record this beat so I can get this put on the YouTube. What's going on, man? Can you hear me okay?
It's been a month, man.
It has been a month. It's been a month.
Yeah. How are you, bro?
Man, I don't know how things could even be better. That's where I'm at.
I love hearing you say that.
I don't know how that could be better. I mean, I can think of a whole bunch of superfluous ways that wouldn't change anything, because I could literally say, hey, put $10 billion in my bank account, and it wouldn't make my life better. Like it'd put some ones and zeros in there that would be cool. But like my life is just, everything's good. Everything is fucking good. I'm doing powerful work. My girls are sleeping through the night.
Yeah, man. You adopted a sleep training.
Yeah, we adopted the sleep training. We did the same thing we did with Pippin that we did with Charlie. And man, stuff's just good, bro.
Cool, man.
Stuff is just good. And I'm stoked about that. So what about you? What's going on? I could go into details, but
no, man. I'm glad that you're feeling great. I'm looking to definitely hear more about a few of those things. For me, I feel well. I feel like things are well for me. However, I think that if I wasn't so good at regulating my hormones, I think that I would be in a mild depression. I think it's from a little bit to do with the change of weather, and I sleep like 10 hours a day now. It's like a slight hibernation thing. A little bit of that, a little bit of boredom, a little bit of boredom at work. And then like this relationship that I'd really like to be spending more time with, someone who lives far away. So this like melting pot of interesting, nothing bad, but it's like a lukewarm, not hot, you know. I think if it weren't for my ability to kind of self-regulate, I think I would be in like a little bit of a mild depression.
Well,
but I'm not. It's more like
being able to self-regulate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like it's more like a mild. I don't want to say numbing because that wouldn't be real, but it's like more of a hint of that, I would say.
What are you currently numbing?
My lack of excitement, I would say.
About?
That's a great question. So for the last 2 years straight, pretty much, I've always had either a giant metaphorical mountain or a giant literal mountain in front of me to more or less plan for and sort of work towards. I don't currently have anything out in front of me other than really wanting to get onto some property with my brother. And this is mostly a waiting game because I can't create a property for sale that it doesn't for sale yet. I don't have that kind of power just yet in my life. So I'm just waiting for one to come for sale that I can buy. So a lot of what I'm doing right now is the waiting place. If you're familiar with the famous work.
I am. I read the places you will go.
You go, yes. It's one of the best Zen textbooks ever created under the sun.
Charlie loves that book.
Yeah, man, it's a work of Zen genius, absolute Zen genius.
It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and I'm definitely in the waiting place, and in a lot of different spaces, professionally, romantically, spiritually, with this dream that I want to create in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Yeah, waiting for my birthday. I'm going to be 33 in December.
Yeah, it's going around.
Yeah, it's going around, man.
33 was a pivotal year for me, brother. It was
Yeah,
a
I feel like
pivotal
every
year
single
for
one of them
me.
has been for
hmm
me.
33 specifically, going backwards, I'll say like 35, 33, 27, 23. Like those were 18, like the biggest, like most, probably 14, 15 as well. Just like
Hmm.
when I think back to like what were the most life changing, like when did you discover something about yourself or
Sure.
do something, climb a mountain
When
per
did you
se, that
when
was
did you
like
do this? You know, maybe traveling a
35.
direction and then changed, like 33.
Yeah. So like,
It was
yeah,
it was
14,
a
15
pivot.
would have been that. And then maybe one smaller one a couple years before, probably like right at the beginning, middle space of middle school. I definitely did a hard direction shift. And then definitely 18 when I joined the Navy,
Mhm.
23 when I got divorced, and then 35, no, yeah, 27 when I like read the book Choke by Chuck Palahniuk and Charlie Died on Lost. Like
She's
when I was like kind of all this stuff. Yeah, dude, I've done extensive timeline work, and I'm very detailed about the exact events that have like most powerfully put me in this exact spot that
mhm,
I'm standing right now.
mhm.
And
I got tattoos for half of them, bro. I understand what you
yeah,
mean.
yeah. And so just like checking in with all those things that that make us us,
Fuck
and the
yeah.
events that we were more specifically like put here to experience,
Mhm.
or that we
Eventually better.
chose, that we chose, yeah, that we chose to experience.
Mhm.
And
Figuratively and like woo woo as fuck. Like
yeah.
your
And if
spirit
anybody
animal
wants to
chose you.
debate me about my proof that we came here to chose it, I'm not going to, because I can't prove that. But that's what
You
I
can,
believe in my
you
in my everything.
you can also argue it from like a very literal perspective though, man, because we are fully in choice of our lives regardless. Like you can prove that one in and out. So
Yeah, for
either
sure.
way.
Yeah. I've had a handful of conversations with people that have done like some deep regression therapy and like some
Hmm.
past life stuff, and they're like, I've spent like time observing the person, like saying, hey, I'm going to choose this, I'm going to choose this, like the good stuff and the bad stuff, men and women. I'm talking about trauma of all forms and things that they
Mhm.
believe that they actually chose into before they press start in the video game. And
Yeah.
it's a pretty interesting thing, and some pretty powerful people too that are really digging into this stuff. Good stuff, man.
Well, I believe it one way or another, like wholeheartedly in its purpose, because like I think we've talked about this a few times. If there wasn't that X factor of random struggle, then everything on Earth would be shaped exactly the same. And it's the invariable of the struggle and the
hmm
variance and the intermittence and
Yeah.
intensity over there in which that shape literally everything.
hmm
Every leaf, um, every turtle shell. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Everything. Uh,
Yep. Hmm.
so if you think about it as like it's not really a bad thing. It's more it's what the contribution to your DNA that is part of your evolutionary story. Uh,
Yeah.
in the same way that a redwood evolves and passes on its information by surviving through a drought, it passes that information on through its roots because the roots actually don't
hmm
die of a redwood, they live on. So a redwood actually never dies, it just continues to grow from a root in what's called a fairy ring. But information goes on with that root, like how to survive a drought. So if you think about that root system, that struggle going through maybe a decade worth of drought, and that redwood now understands how to survive that, and then passing that on to future redwoods, it's your responsibility to optimize your struggle to pass it on through your DNA. That's the evolution of Earth. So it's a gift, man. In the same way that that drought is, what doesn't kill us makes us
Mm,
stronger. So if you're alive to
100%
talk about
true.
your struggle, you're a fucking warrior and just need to get over it. It's the story and surround yourself in the strength.
I wrote an email last night that like exact same thing. Like every single trauma, every single thing you've ever been afraid of, everything, all of it, you've overcome it because you're still fucking here.
Fucking A, man. You
All of
won.
it. You
You fucking
won. Like
won.
you're
You can write the
continuing to
story.
win. Yeah.
You can write the story
Yeah.
because you're still alive.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, man. What do you want to get into today? There's
Huh.
already 15 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't know really where I was going to go because of where I'm at. And I feel like I got my free therapy for the month already in this 15 minutes. Like,
I know, right? Man, I
just
had
just the
something
idea of
too.
externally processing to you, man, like the filter that you bring to people, because your consciousness, your field of perception, it warrants a certain response from people, like the people you
Mm,
work with, your clients, your relationships, your friends in the Navy. Like you've always kind of cultivated this connection. We found it in out there in the fucking whatever the fuck that place is called. Uh, I saw it there. You in there at that
yeah.
time as well. And so the opportunity to just to connect with you and drop in with you and to communicate where I'm at in a way that I know that you'll understand also helps me understand. So the filter that I have as a result of knowing you, Ryan, is a filter that you give to your clients. And as they
Yeah.
get to know you, that's an essential part of, I think, what you really offer your people that are paying you money to help them uh, is you, because the filter that you give them of you. I don't know how much of you give to your clients, but I know how much of you've given to me, and I know how important that is to me
Man,
for these conversations.
as much as I possibly can. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going on right now. Carl, we are talking about, what are we talking about? Just like talking about each other right now.
Yeah.
But as far as in the context of what do I give to my clients, it's like literally as much as I can,
Hmm.
as
Of
much
you,
as I
though.
feasibly can
Of
of
you.
me though.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like
Hmm.
as much as I can, as much of my time and space that I can afford to give, I do my best to give it. And oftentimes find myself over giving. But then it was just like, it's that root system that you're talking about. And it was something that I used to get so angry about in the Navy because they would be demanding so much of us and we would end up acquiescing and giving more and more and more. And each year would be just like a new line, like this is a new standard, this is a new
Sure.
standard.
New
And
standard
I
of
think
abuse.
the new standard of abuse.
Hmm.
And so I think that the biggest difference, because I'm doing the same thing to
Hmm.
myself, like but I wouldn't call it abuse because it's all very, very much in alignment with the things that are most important.
Well,
And
and it's what is your mission serving? Like
oh
your
yeah,
blood, sweat, and tears on
yeah,
a fucking boat are meaningless. Your blood, sweat, and
yeah,
tears out here, man, are saving children who are going
yeah,
to be raised by parents who are going to be more well-rounded. Relationships are going to be together. People are going to be more successful in their business, maybe a little even
yeah,
less cunty, hopefully, as a
yeah.
result of working with you. So
A little
that
less
blood,
what?
sweat, and tears, like dividends on the planet, man. Like
Hmm.
you got planetary votes for that one, and that's that third win, that one that's real hard to find.
Oh
You can't
man,
really justify or quantify the value of that third win because it's really hard to imagine.
I'm reading this book right now called The Go Giver. I think you probably read it. Have you read it? So they talk about the win-win.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually was really interesting. And he said the thing about the win-win is that it's always talking about, okay, I'm going to get this, you're going to get that. And the one thing that really kind of blew my mind is what would happen if we stopped keeping score?
Yeah, that's the third
And
win,
then
man.
like
The
just
third win.
maybe that's a third. So you're like going for it and you're just giving just to give. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting. And it's just like, just to kind of just, I think, because I think that there's valuable in the win-win thing. And, the 1+1 is 3 obviously is valuable, but it's just, I love it when you hear, I guess my wife and I did, 2 weeks ago, we did you ever heard of the Gottman Institute or the 7 Principles to Make a Marriage Work? The
Mm-mm.
Gottman husband and wife, they're this a freaking adorable Jewish couple that we went to one of their workshops a couple weeks ago. And it
Hmm.
was really fascinating to hear
Cool.
content that I know, but told from somebody else's perspective. And you're like,
Yeah, different vocabulary.
that vocabulary is amazing. Like, it's just so cool. So it's just one of those
Mhm.
things.
Well,
And
because that's how you
even,
synergize it. That's how you synergize it, Ryan.
mm,
You hear
mhm,
3 or 4
mhm,
different people talk about something that you've heard talked about, and then it becomes
yeah,
yours when you just mix all that shit in. And it's
mix it
like
all
putting
in.
pizza.
And then how cool was it to go to a marriage workshop when my relationship is really good?
Yeah, that's the first thing I
That
thought. I
was
was like, man,
really,
you guys
really
have a rock
baller.
star marriage, and you're over there.
Dude, it was really, really
Super
good.
beautiful, dude.
Yeah. And so I felt very grateful. And it was also really humbling because there were some couples in there that were struggling really struggling with things that I felt, because I think the first day was a 2-day thing, and the first day felt very it felt very safe. It felt very, very, very safe. Carl, I'll get to your question in just a second. It's a really, really good question. And that was kind of because I had to do feedback. I was like, man, this felt a little safe, because I know the workshops that you and I are used to going to, it's like you're there for 8 minutes and you're already crying, right? And so
yeah, safety's not really consent.
Yeah,
and safety are not really part of
right.
that.
But then at the end of the second day, we're like sitting around and Kara like, did you notice how many people were like really struggling in there? And I was like, you know what? I was so in my own thing and like taking notes and like absorbing the stuff that I didn't pay attention to a lot of people there. And I feel like in a way that was a missed opportunity for me,
Sure.
that I didn't check in to be like, but I was like, it was just an ego thing, you know? So Carl's an interesting question. He says, if you give and give, but don't receive, are you being heard? Well, let's
If you say the question one more time.
if you give and give, but don't receive, are you being heard?
If you don't receive, are you being heard? Interesting. I don't think you're being understood.
Yeah, I would say you're probably not being understood. And I see this a lot, like when we talk about relationships and the way sleep training is new. Like, right, well, not new, but it's like, boom, like both my daughters are sleeping through the night. And like all of a sudden, the last 3 or 4 days, my wife are all of a sudden connecting in ways that I want to connect and connecting in ways that she's wanting to connect. But for the last 4 years, we've had these tiny little terrorists living in our home, you know, just breathing the air and shitting in the tanks. Carl, my Navy guy, you understand that. Just like, that's like what they're doing. And they're just taking from you, right? Because they have to survive. If they don't, they die. And so it's just one of those things. But in us as adults, we can give ourselves that by saying, I understand that. And there's certain stuff that I wish my 3.5-year-old would do, but she just doesn't have the emotional ability to understand the things that I'm asking her, or the way I'm asking her, the way that I can get a little out of control. So I would think like they're probably hearing you, but they probably don't understand you. And you may, in certain relationships, because I've been in relationships where, because I think it's important to continue to give, but if you're also in a relationship where you're not receiving anything and you're just like, your cup is not only empty, it's like starting to like, you know, collapse upon itself, you may need to give to yourself and go get into a new relationship, which can be a tall order, as I imagine the relationship you're talking about. So I'm not 100% sure if that resonates. I don't know, Dustin, what do you think?
Well, I think like any uncomfortable situation, because I imagine if you find yourself in this situation, it's uncomfortable. Like any of those situations, it turns on an indicator light to pay attention, to look deeper. And so I would wonder, as the person in that situation, why am I not receiving?
He says that just now. Yeah, he says in the content of what I teach, computer science, if you set wire to A but are waiting for B, there's a miscommunication. Heck yeah, a miscommunication, because the programming of one thing isn't designed to understand B. So that's exactly, yeah, that's a perfect thing. And yeah, keep going, T.
That's where I would start, was with the why, and depending on where that was, if it was an externally dependent why that I wasn't receiving from someone else, I would address it with that person. And if it was an internal why, I would look deeper at how I could take care of that or address that. But it definitely would something that would require looking at. And in this context of the analogy, perhaps the person doesn't even know what the giving could even look like. They're trying. You're not receiving because they don't even know what it is that you want to receive, which is why it's really important to communicate with anyone who you're in a relationship of giving with, what it is that you want and what feels good if they don't know, because not everyone's a fucking genius.
Yeah. And I'd love to expound on that, because some people are super smart at some stuff and others are not, and the same people can be not very smart at some things. I'm very, very good in my very, very focused thing, and I'm terrible at golf, you know. And so it's just like, it just really depends. And 1 second, my wife, I changed the schedule on her by starting early. Let me send her a message real quick.
Oops.
No, it's all good.
Well, as you can see, it's still late here,
Yeah,
despite
it's still late.
I saw the best meme about what we do here with this daylight savings time. It was it was it was a stereotypical Indian Native American, not like the modern day Native Americans where they're like wearing kind of a nice suit and they look like they'll kick your ass. Not that kind, but like the kind with like the headdress and like maybe an outfit to like that kind of Native American saying only the white man is dumb enough to think he can cut 2 inches off the bottom of a blanket and sew it to the top and end up thinking he has a longer blanket.
Yeah, it's the dumbest thing.
It's the dumbest thing, man.
Fascinating why we keep doing it. I love it because I'm an hour closer to you. It's much more convenient to me.
And my circadian rhythm is fucked up for 6 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is why what I do is I just shift my wake up time 30 minutes every time we do this daylight savings time because a 30-minute shift is not that bad. But the shifting every 6 months, shifting an hour is torture for people, man. It's fucking torture. Absolutely.
It really is
not good for us in our sleep cycles. It's not good.
It takes you.
Some people don't recover from it, man. Some people are constantly fucked up. And some people, it's not that big a deal. But it needs to go away. It's horrible. Like it's the dumbest thing in the world.
Carl says accountability always seems like an attack when you're forced to deal with the behavior. I'd also say that it seems like an attack when you're not ready to freaking take responsibility for your own shit. Like if I'm like, hey, Dustin, I think you need to realize, because I took notes, that your non-mountain is your mountain right now. And if he was not willing to look at himself, he may feel like that's an attack. but since we're all friends here, like
I understand the ground that you're standing on and where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And
and we have that thing, so it's just
standing behind you. Don't have any backdoor resentment between us. So communication can be open and clear. But it's hard to have open and clear communication if you have backdoor resentment and closet bullshit going on with a relationship. It's really hard. Coming from
Carl, you say change is hard. Is that just your story? Because I think change is happening whether we want to or not.
Yeah, I think resisting change is hard.
Resisting change is hard.
That's like resisting a river. You can do it for so long, but eventually it will blow a fucking dam down.
Yeah, really. And I think and I was just talking to a client right before this, it's like when you open one floodgate, it just empties out and there's another gate behind it. It's just just open a tiny door. Open a tiny door and then
and the water will pool somewhere else.
The water will pool, it's just gonna go.
Let it fucking flow, man.
This place is hilarious.
Well, I mean, just look at the river, man. Follow the path of the river. The river starts in the mountains, path of least resistance. You can dam it up as much as you want, but eventually it will blow the dam down eventually for sure, right? Or sneak by, all to become nothing as it disappears into the ocean. This line that is traveled through villages and through forests and through all sorts of places, has fed communities all over the world, and then just dumps into the ocean to become nothing and forgotten about. But you can't stop it. You just got to let it flow, man.
You got to.
Path of least resistance is usually out there too. Like the sleep training. Well, it seems like it was hard at first when you're listening to because you guys did the "we're not going to come in when you cry" thing, right?
No, she sleeps in the room with us. We just don't. Literally, this is what we've done. Charlie slept in the room with us, and Pippin sleeps in the room with us now. Charlie's got her own room now, and Pippin will eventually move into her room, or Charlie will move into Andrew's room and he moves out, and Pippin will take Charlie's room. But we just stopped breastfeeding her. We just stopped giving her to care. And then when a friend of ours gifted us a hotel room over the weekend, she gave it to us a couple months ago, and we had planned, it's this really fancy hotel too, right? Like fancy as fuck. And so we were like, oh, we're gonna get babysitters. We're gonna do this whole freaking thing. We're gonna do this blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, McCare's like, what if we just take turns at the hotel and we just like get through the sleep training thing? I was like, that's a genius idea. So I only slept in the hotel one of the nights. I slept there the first night with Charlie, and Pippin slept through the night at home because we've been doing the sleep training for 3 or 4 days before that. And so it takes 3 days. It takes 3 days to sleep train your children, but that's from my massive 2 children experience. So yeah.
Well, that's actually what I've heard from every parent who's actually forced themselves to go
3 days. All you have to do is
3 days of hell, and then
3 days of hell.
Awesome.
Yeah, like hell. And we were so tired that we were like we were fighting. We were picking fights with each other over apple cider vinegar and like how to pour it. Like it was ridiculous because we were so exhausted. And
but it worked.
I don't breastfeed specifically. My wife does. So I would get the baby instead and just rock her until she fell back asleep. And I think with Charlie, the first night she woke up 8 times, the second night she woke up 3 times, and the third night she slept through the night. And it was it was very, very similar with Pippin. Very, very similar. I'd say she woke up less, but was harder to put back down. And so it was just did it. And then it was like, if you wake a kid up at 2 o'clock in the morning and feed it a sandwich, and you wake it up at 4 and you feed it another sandwich, and you do that for 6 months, it's just going to wake up at 2 o'clock and be like, where's my fucking sandwich, bitch? Give it to me. And so
it doesn't take that long for them to forget about that.
It doesn't take that long.
Sandwich.
No. And then like 3 days because they're like, yeah. And my daughter would wake up and she'd have these bags under her eyes and she's like ready to get up because it's 6:30 and the sun's out. But now she's waking up and she's so pleasant in the morning. She's actually taking longer naps during the day because she's sleeping better at night. And now she knows how to sleep. She knows how to do it. And it doesn't take that much time. And I think when we bought like these sleep training coaching videos back with Charlie,
I remember,
and the woman, and the woman was just like, your daughter's, she's not going to starve. Like, look at her little legs. They're super chubby. She's fine.
She'll fucking live.
They're really fine. Yeah. And so it was really
covered in
interesting.
brown fat. They're covered in brown fat.
In our old spot, because Charlie would she could smell McCare from like a half a mile. We had her sleep on the couch in the living room so she could be away. And for 3 nights, I went to battle with my daughter. And then when we did Pippin, we have 2 queen size beds, so my bed was just closest, and I just rocked her on that one edge.
You were like, listen, I was in the Navy for 20 years. I can do it.
Oh yeah. No, and so yeah,
you're not gonna win.
No, and this is a dad thing. This is a dad thing.
Beautiful.
Men are very task oriented, and we love checking that block, and we love that dopamine spike.
Yeah.
Very, very much.
The masculine trait.
That masculine is a very interesting thing. And so for all these men, and this is just me speaking to myself from 5 years ago, it's like, this is an opportunity that you get to go to battle like for your wife and like do something, it's not battling. I'm literally just sitting there rocking me like, shh, 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 shh. It's cool. But in my mind, I'm like, fuck yeah, you're going to sleep. It's going to be awesome. It's like, we're going to do this. And then it's like, McCare's like going to be, all right, I'm going to limit. See ya. We're going to freaking do, like, I'm so stoked about it. And so it's just been a really interesting thing, like moving from the military to fathering and coaching and coming in from like a softer, like much more loving and open perspective, yet still like in the background, like all the hoo-yah is still there, because it's valuable. It really is.
Yeah.
It's valuable. And when you can balance it and freaking swing that pendulum just in the right spots, like it's, it's a good thing. And we can still go to battle without fighting,
Well, I think it's really a fantastic thing for you as a coach of people to also be a parent of children.
Dude,
I think that if you're coaching people and you don't raise kids or haven't raised kids or haven't done something with kids, like specifically, I don't know if I trust you, like in your abilities to coach me, and like professionally, like not having the experience of like re-seeing the
Hmm.
developmental years, not being able to re-see that. Like there's just so much that you're missing. Like I've had a small
Yeah.
amounts of experience with my nieces and nephews, and I've watched their development, and like I learned so much about human development and the human mind in just a few afternoons with them. So I could only imagine what someone like you is doing with parenting and all the little lessons and all the curriculum I'm sure you're developing as a result of having little minions running around.
Well, I think
Incredible inspiration.
the biggest thing for me, because I work with people about relationships and integrity, really the
Hmm.
biggest thing, like finding out what's the things that are most important to you, and then what are all the things that you are out of integrity about, and like let's go eradicate those like a freaking SEAL Team 6. And
Hmm.
so the biggest thing for me, like as a husband and a father, is that if I have client X here and he wants a better relationship with his wife, like I have to go back downstairs into my house and practice being the best version of a husband that I can. I
Hmm.
have to practice being the best version of a father I can be, because if I don't, I'll be out of integrity with my business, number one. And it's also an awful business model. It's just a bad business model because I think the best feedback that I've ever gotten from clients is that what we see you saying is what we see you doing. And I was like, sweet, like that's the
Hmm.
best feedback I've ever received. And that's just been, okay, cool. Like the stuff that I really, really, really believe in, like the stuff that's highest priority to me. Like I don't do other things that's outside of that stuff. And if I do, I pay for it. It's kind of like not eating gluten, or if you're sensitive to it. Like I know that my health, my integrity with my health, and like the once every couple of weeks that I do it, like I suffer and I pay
I've
for
never
it.
heard anyone talk about their spiritual health in the context of a gluten intolerance.
Dude, I'm telling, well, because I stopped eating gluten about a month and a half ago, and I stopped
Oh,
drinking milk, and I stopped drinking
yeah.
coffee,
Well, dude, did you stop
and
drinking milk at the same time as gluten?
no gluten, no coffee, no milk, all at the same time. And I thought I was dying. I
Dude,
felt like I had the
the
flu for
milk
like a week.
alone is enough to change everything in your whole body, dude. The milk alone.
Yeah, and but the funny thing about the milk is that I only ever had it in my coffee with a half and half. I didn't do it at all. The wheat has been the biggest thing
That'll just
because
help you drop some pounds in
yeah,
like a week.
dude, I lost like freaking, I think 5 or 10 pounds or something. I've
Hmm.
definitely slimmed up, and that's been awesome.
Less inflamed,
And
I'm sure. I bet your wedding ring fits different.
dude, it's like whoop whoop.
Ah, see,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. That's
That's
from
how
the
I judge
inflammation,
it too.
man.
That's how I judge it too. I'd be like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, this fits much looser.
you can
And
throw it
so
on your thumb if it gets if it it'll squish on your thumb.
I don't know, man. I got a pretty big knuckle right
It'll
there,
get past the knuckle and then it won't come off.
and that'll never come off. Is that what you
Well,
did?
it does come off, but this is a size 11 and a half, and it did sort of fit
Oh
this
wow.
finger. I got it for this finger,
Hmm.
but
Interesting.
way too
Interesting.
big. So now I wear it on my
Hmm.
thumb.
Yeah. Carl says, "Do as I say, not as I do." That was the kind of leadership I experienced in the military.
Yeah, man, that's the
Very,
worst kind of leadership
very.
I've ever seen.
Say that one more time.
That's the worst kind of leadership I've ever seen.
The absolute worst. It doesn't make any sense.
Hmm.
It doesn't make any freaking sense. When it's and we suffer from that a lot. Is gluten is delicious. It's terribly
Fucking
delicious.
terribly
It
delicious.
really is. It's really, really good.
In
It's
pizza, in
but it's interesting.
donuts. Hmm.
It's interesting now that I'm off of it. On occasion, I'll get like that brain spike of like, let's go eat a sandwich, and it's exciting to my brain.
Hmm.
But when I let my body feel it, my body intuition be like, hey, how does a sandwich feel to you? My body's like, don't you do that shit. Don't do it. It's just my life is better. It just is. And
Well,
I don't want
bravo for
coffee
you for
anymore.
asking to feel into your body, man. That takes a lot of
It's yeah,
wherewithal
it's an
to go that way.
interesting. Mhm, and it's interesting how you can really feel the difference between your head and your
Oh
body.
yeah.
Super, super interesting, and how they can be completely opposed. But one
Mhm.
one just wants to freaking party and send you back into the Stone Age with your bullshit, and the other one wants you to freaking be expansive.
Well, you don't.
So
Well, see, it's not even that, dude. You're making one sound super malicious. One has the keys to the fucking liquor cabinet, all right,
right.
and the medicine cabinet, all right. They got the keys to that fucking thing. They could open that thing up and they can pull out booze. They could pull out fucking any kind of drug that you can think of that our minds. There's a crazy amount of hormones in there, and you just pull those motherfuckers out, right? And so the brain just wants to open up that cabinet, man, to pull the dopamine, the serotonin,
pull it
all
all
that
out.
good stuff.
Yep.
And so your brain doesn't necessarily know that when that stuff goes into your body, it feels like a nuclear bomb. It feels like total violation of homeostasis. And so that's why it's important to do what you did, to feel into that thing. Be like, does my body actually want a sandwich? Because one in 10 times that you ask that question, it's going to be a yes. And I think it's
1 in 10. Yeah.
I think it's important to respect the 9 times and be like, no, I don't want a sandwich today, but it sounds delicious. I'll admit that. It sounds yummy, but not today. I'm going to have this.
Well, that's like I told McCare. I was like, hey, we got this gift certificate to this restaurant up on the Windward side that's got this amazing meatball grinder. I was like, why don't we like go up there in a couple of weeks? Because if I do it like once a month, and it's like, cool. And a couple of weeks ago, I had like another cheat where I was like, but it was like, you pay for it. Like you really do. Like my digestion freaking is totally whack when I do it. And so it's like right on, but it's like, it's at the same time, it's like to just keep that like a treat, but still it comes with a note,
It does. And it can also be like regulated even more thorough, like more regulated even after, like with how your body works with fasting. I don't know how you approach fasting, but it can be a nice way to repair damage from, for example, something like gluten, because gluten specifically wears away at the lining inside of your stomach, and fasting specifically repairs the lining, the inside of your stomach through production of stem cells right there in your belly. So depending on certain things, one could really self-regulate the abuse that they incur through fasting.
It's true.
By leveraging
I did a
biology.
bunch of intermittent fasting last year, and I would be interested to try it again now that my eating is much cleaner, because it was like one of those things that it was like almost like, oh, if I'm not going to eat for 16 or 18 hours a day, then I can kind of be a little more liberal with what I do eat. And it's just like one of those things. Again, it's like your brain's like, all right, cool, body, we're going to do this, but I'm going to just open up this cabinet just a little bit more, and so it's just a very interesting thing. So to try it now in a new context would be really fascinating.
So kind of what I've been doing more recently is a little bit less of the longer intermittent and eating a little, because I wake up at 4 a.m. pretty much every day, and then eating like around 10, a small amount, and then again around 1 or 2, a small amount, or 3 or 4, skipping 2 and at 3 or 4 having my dinner. So having like still these periods of fasting, but also smaller meals, because would do the intermittent fasting like I've described to you so many times. Then I come home and eat a bunch of food over the period of like 4 hours, and then I'd fall asleep with just like I now have incredible awareness of where my stomach begins and ends. Intermittent fasting, because it would be completely empty, and then I would put 1,400 calories in it 1 hour, and then another 1,400 calories the next hour, and then my stomach would be so fucking full when I went to sleep that I would have to lay on one side, because if it sat on my organs, it made me feel uncomfortable.
That was the same thing that happened to me, and then I would wake up, and then my body hadn't processed it all, and I had to process it all at once, and then I would have to pass it all at once. And I didn't like that, but that was because the window that I'd set myself, it was like from noon to 8. And then I bumped that from noon, and it kind of took care of itself. It was noon to 6, because by the time we would start the bedtime routine, it was around 6 or 6:30. And so I would be like, oh, I've only got 30 more minutes. And I'd just be like, rah, 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 like chomping, and just pushing it all down there. And then my digestion the next day, I'd be like, I'd wake up feeling so stuffed and full. and then it wouldn't come out until like 6 hours later.
Something more, way more fluid than keeping a stopwatch, man. I think applying the biology, but not the dogma of intermittent fasting. Like,
I like that.
Allowing yourself to get a little hungry, be a little hungry, especially like I think with now that your diet's cleaner, things that you can start to pay attention to with, especially if you start doing some fasting, is that you actually need way less calories than you actually are consuming. And like the idea that how much we eat is really subjective on how much we do in a day. And so a day that maybe is not like I ran at all cylinders all day, you don't necessarily going to eat as much as a day that you friggin' pumped out calls and pumped out content and like we're running around, meeting up this and that, chasing fucking kids around. Like that's a day that you're going to have like 2 or 3 meals, you know what I'm saying? But a day that maybe is a little different, I don't know what your flow is like, but a day that is something that's less could look different. And as you're feeling into your body more, and like I really invite you and encourage you to really like lean into that and give yourself permission to feel things that you didn't really think you could feel inside of your body, and really lean into that and ask yourself certain things. Because if you're already doing that, coming from a sort of like oh, I want to do that, like push it, because it's a deep place. Like that's how Wim has done so many things that he's done, simply by asking his body, like, okay, how are we going to do this? So it's
Speaking of Wim, I got a guy to connect you with later too. One of my
Definitely.
clients wants to dig into what you're doing.
Send us a group message.
Yeah, I'll freaking group message you later while I'm thinking about. Right
Yeah,
on,
man. Lean into that. I think we'll end with you and your cleaner version of eating. I'm excited to hear that you're paying more attention to.
No, dude, it's really huge.
I like what you've given up. Coffee's a fucking drug, man. Milk is a breast milk of another animal.
Yeah.
Which just reminds me, if you feel, to end on a question, if you feel comfortable going into this, because although I'm not a father yet, fatherhood is in my future. And something curious has come up to me. I'm wondering now, because I've now asked myself this question and I answered it. I'm curious what your answer is. Did you ever drink breast milk from the breast of your wife?
No, it grosses me out.
No. You didn't even want to try it?
Nope.
Wow.
Grosses me out. It's
what
really,
about in the bottle or in the cup or something?
No, I don't know why. It's one of those things. It's one of those weird things, but I think it's just like just recently, all 50 states, you can breastfeed like legally in them, right? It's like one of those things, it's like a shame thing that I think, and when I like really think about why is this so gross, yet some half and half of my coffee is so good, it's just like, because we're trained to be like, that's okay. And we're trained to be like, that's not okay. And I never did that, but we did the placenta stuff and I did that. And that was weird, but it was cool. And I could feel like, I felt like I could feel the stuff. And was being more connected with the whatnot and the huya. And
the woo woo.
Yeah, but like the breast milk thing, like, man, I would like walk into the room and Makara would be feeding Pippin and Pippin would pop up and look at me and you can just see the nipple just like drip, 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 like getting milk everywhere. I was like, oh, I don't know why. It was just so gross to me. It's fascinating. I know there's no logical reason that should be gross. It's not.
Were you breastfed?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely breastfed. Yeah.
So interesting.
It's really interesting. And
I'm surprised. I'm surprised as a personal growth worker, you didn't fucking nut up and saddle on to one of those nipples.
Well, see, yeah, no, I think it's just because there's such an because I grew up during the HIV thing, and so it's like body fluids and like body, like it's just like that stuff's like it's like no,
it's all good.
No, I know, but it's just one of those things. It's interesting. I'm gonna have to do some like deep digging to see why this is.
No,
so
you're gonna
gross.
have to do some suckling, bro. Get up.
Oh man,
do some digging, man. There's no digging, man. Suckling.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, that's
totally good.
Hilarious.
Like, it's funny because it's like
balls to go there with me, though. Thank you.
No, yeah, it's really interesting. And that's too, it's because like, and I understand like, yeah, you're laying the challenge down in front of me, but I was like, no, that's not a hill that I need to die on. Like, I'm cool with it. I'm okay with this being gross. And like Pippin's starting to wean herself off. Like she's Charlie made it 21 months before McCare like had to shut it down.
I
She's
just
like,
want
I'm
you to know
starting.
that your days are numbered for you to actually have an opportunity to have a choice in this.
Oh, I know. That's freaking hilarious. Hilarious.
Unless you're planning on having an accidental third like my parents did, man. It was
No, I got fixed.
the best. Oh, you did.
Dude,
Amazing.
it's the best thing ever, man. It was and that was a surprisingly emotional experience for me.
I bet
It was surprisingly emotional.
I bet.
Yeah. You think of the physical stuff and you think of the libido stuff.
All of it.
And then the physical stuff was it was like 10 days I was completely fine. And then yeah, but like I remember like getting home, like I drove myself there, got snipped, drove myself home.
Whoa.
And then I remember walking downstairs and my wife is like, they're sitting, my wife and both my kids are like sitting there. I just started crying because it's just like, it's such a definitive line in the sand. You know,
Mm-hmm.
It was a choice that we intentionally made because I'll die if we have more children. But it was like one of those things like, nope, this is it. Like, this is it. And it's just like you're saying, it's like the days are numbered until like that's over, you know? And the guys, this Australian doctor that did the procedure, he's like, yeah, unless some miracle, like they have been known to jump the gap, but still, unless that happens, like it's just not going to be.
Jump the gap. That's hilarious.
Jump the gap, man.
Hey, but if that happens, you got to have that kid because that kid's a fucking
miracle. Got to. You got to.
Miracle.
Oh, man.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
The surgery is reversible, though. I have two niece and nephew to prove it.
Yeah, I'm good. I have no desire to have more children.
It's a very bad recovery.
No, I do not.
It's like 10 weeks. 10 weeks to the reconnection is like 10 weeks.
No,
you can't even walk.
I'm not very good at being in recovery. It was like I got the surgery on Friday afternoon, like Sunday morning, I like took my daughter out to breakfast at the mall, like a dumbass. And then I got home and I looked at my car. I was like, I have to lay down right now. Like it was just like it was a wrong move, you know. And just I'm just not very good at. Yeah, it's one of the biggest things. Oh yeah, because remember I went into 2019 saying I'm not going to hire a coach for all of 2019, and for all but 3 weeks I did that. I didn't hire a coach for 3 weeks, except for 3 weeks. But I noticed at how that could become like almost an addictive kind of an ego thing. Like, oh, I don't need anybody to hold space for me. I am. Like, you know, we can like get like those words that we use to embolden us can like really break us down too at the same time. And I noticed that like by the end of the summer, August, September timeframe, I was struggling and I needed help. And so finally I was like, nope, you come help me. And then, you know, but then I also hired a VA and hired somebody to fix my website and work those things for me. That is just that I don't want to have energy for. And that's been a massive change for me as well. I was like, yeah, you know,
in a sense, you spooled up to invest those in that space instead.
Yeah, like I'm not even going to upload this to YouTube. I pay somebody to do that because, yeah, it's so silly. It's like 2 minutes of work that I could literally do, but it takes me out of my flow. It really does. It does, and I can just walk away and it's just done. You know, and I get a little notification, uploaded to YouTube. It's like, huh, it's shockingly inexpensive. So it's like really, really, you know, 2 minutes of freaking the hourly rate is not a lot of money. It's not a lot. So that's probably been the real lesson right there. Now that I say it all out loud, like, no, you're not going to hire coaches. You're going to hire people to take all the superfluous off your plate. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Hi, bro. I'm gonna get the fuck out of here.
I love you, man. Thank you for that.
I love you too, bro. Cool, dude. I will talk to you later.
Later, alligator.
Yeah, bro. See ya.
Later.